The Marquis of Granby.
Marquis, yeah.
I've actually smoked a cigarette in there in the last few years.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about it.
Because there was a lock-in, and even though I don't
Turn left, then turn left.
smoke anymore, I smoke an e-cig. Someone with
Turn left, then turn left.
me had fags, and I just could not resist the opportunity. And we were with a comedy promoter called Ben, who's really, really lovely, and he got very nervous about the legality of the whole affair.
Turn left.
He was imagining some kind of raid taking place and our names being strewn across the press.
I think the police have got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Eleanor continues, I remember speaking to regulars at the time who thought the ban would be the end of the film industry, but luckily it was not. Anyway, it was on a recent trip to the much beloved Blythe Hill Tavern, where this nostalgia for fags got me full force. Sitting in the ladies' loos, a very pokey affair if you haven't had the chance.
In 100 yards. At the roundabout, take the first exit.
To visit them personally. I noticed that the loo roll holder was peppered with ancient cigarette burns. The fact that the loo roll holder was from 2007.
In 50 yards. At the roundabout, take the first exit. In a quarter of a mile. At the roundabout, take the first exit.
Or even earlier. And that B, someone had enjoyed a smoke on the toilet in a now bygone age, was enough to fill my Guinness-raddled brain with glee and emotion. No one I was with that evening gave a shit about the Proustian rush I got from a burnt bog roll holder, but perhaps you lads will. In 0.5% for now. Pints, Eleanor. Yeah, that's great. Always the most nostalgic footballer, Ian Rush, isn't he?
And I get a similar thing when you see sometimes, well, always on planes, there's always an ashtray in the toilet. There's one by law, even though you're not allowed to smoke on planes. I remember smoking on planes, I remember smoking on trains and in pubs.
Yeah.
In a quarter of a mile. Turn left. In 150 yards. At the roundabout, take the third exit.
And it was great. And it has had a big impact on the pub industry.
It has,
but
yeah.
it's still obviously a good thing.
Yeah. We got a nice mist in here from William. Dear John and Robin, I enjoy your podcast very much, and it always brings to my mind the enjoyment that I feel once every year when my friends and I engage in a pub crawl through the old mews of London. I hope that you do not mind me sharing. 22 odd years ago, some friends and I were at law school, but due to an inset day, there were no lectures on a Friday, the last Friday in November that year. A lecturer of ours suggested that we might want to do something useful on that day off, rather than to flounder in self-loathing amid the thug of lunchtime neighbours / diagnosis murder and Camel lights after a free Thursday night of too many pints of Old Rosie in the local inn and associated mystery meat from a late-night food vendor. We decided to stay sober and catch the train early on the Friday morning to Big London to attend the Royal Courts of Justice for an outing to observe the commercial and chancery trials of the day to assist us in our learnings. Oh, I can tell where they're going to go here. Can you?
Yeah, just about.
After some 30 minutes of trying to decipher the specifics of a particular case, lost now to the mists of time in my memory, we thought it best to retire to a public house some way across London to discuss the legal ramifications that we had witnessed. There began an epic trek across some of the oldest wooden-fitted pubs in London, and an idea was hatched amidst the chaos of Lash. Great phrase. Every year since, we have met on the last Friday in November, always at midday and always in the Grenadier on Wilton Row. The rapping on the oaken door of that ghostly Mews tavern at midday is now known as the official bringing in of Christmas. We then proceed to walk a route of some of the finest Victorian Mews pubs from that location due south towards the river. The route changes to an extent over the years and has stretched to 12 or 13 or so in the past, dependent on speed and stamina. Some of the pubs along the route have taken on almost religious significance to us, such as the Nag's Head on Kinnerton Street with its fittings, faded photos and bronzes, and which has a landlord who would chase you
in 300 yards. At the roundabout, take the second exit.
with a stick if a mobile phone was used inside. The Star in Belgravian Mews West with its cobbles and the Horse and Groom in Groom Placed with the most dangerous toilet steps known to man. when 6 or 7 pubs into a crawl. Some inns and taverns have come and gone, and a silent nod of the head can be given when walking past the ghostly shell of a previous pub, which was part of the route, now turned into apartments and ripped of their joyous previous life. As you head further south, some of the favourites have been altered from their previous lives as backstreet, firelit and carpeted dens of joy. The original fittings now ripped out and replaced with tiles and cocktails. The Fiend Arms, don't know that. The Surprise in Chelsea, my old favourite, a giant of backstreet Victorian drinking holes. A King's Arm Rupel Street Plus. So he's saying it's so good it's like the King's Arms on Rupel Street times 5. As the years wane, our numbers continue. I don't think we will reach the heady days in our 20s when we were 30 strong and we could all make it for a lock-in at a friend's pub near World's End until 3 AM. As you age, the frivolity and excitement of youth can wither on the vine to an extent, and it becomes harder to get everyone together, but this one day always seems to bring us out again for another go. No invites or emails are ever sent, other than a cryptic message saying clickety-clack to signify the sound of a Victorian shoe on a cobbled mews in the winter. It's a lovely touch. It is just known that it will occur. We always said that whatever happens, nuclear winter, apocalypse, public and private shame.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the second exit.
If we cannot find anyone, if ever we are lost, we always know to be on Wilton Row on the last Friday of November, where there will be a smiling face, roaring fire, and that most wonderful sound of pub commotion as you open the door. This year will be our 22nd, and I cannot wait until we can bring in Christmas again. Well done with the podcast, and I wish you all the best, William. Thanks so much for that, William. That's brilliant.
That's one of the great literary emails.
It's so good. Lovely phrases in there. I always thought you were going to start in the 7 stars if by starting there. That's where I would have thought.
Which is London's oldest pub?
No, but just because William starts like around the the Royal Courts of Justice and commercial
I think it is
Chancery
London's
trials.
oldest pub.
7 stars? No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's surely a very contested title.
I don't think it is actually, Robin. Yeah, the oldest pub in London is a 7 stars in Holborn. It escaped the Great Fire of London in 1666. You certainly wouldn't think it was the oldest pub. I mean, even though it does look old. Built in 1602.
Wow.
Ye Old Mitre, there's a bit of contestation about when that was built. The old bell on Fleet Street has been licensed for 300 years. The George, which we've been to, that big coaching inn.
Yeah. Well, that's the one that the Pete Brown book is about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exit the roundabout.
Yeah. Shakespeare's local.
But I think that's one of the ones which, because it's sort of had multiple uses.
Yeah. And the George, the original build, isn't it?
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the second exit.
That the original building isn't what it was or something like that.
Yeah, so Ye Old Cheshire Cheese, there has been a pub at that site for 100 years, but the building was rebuilt after the Great Fire of London. So I think there are lots of pubs on sites that there have been pubs for longer, but I think in terms of the continual publiness of its own sweet realm, 7 stars. Oh,
William, I remember there's a book by Tim Lott called White City Blue, which I'm sure has got a very similar premise, whereas the same group of friends always meet up for a pub crawl at the same time of year. I have to go back to it. But yeah, I love that idea of texting your friends clickety-clack, which is the noise of a Victorian shoe down a cobbled mews.
Yeah.
It needs its own emoji. It's good stuff.
And what was the Miss Twain?
I don't know if we've got time for Miss Twain.
We've got time for Miss Twain.
Have we? Okay, great. Let's do Miss Twain. This is from Tom. Hi John and Robin, I was delighted to hear the mention of the Blue Ball in Grantchester on the pod this week. I live in walking distance of the village, and the Blue Ball is probably my favourite ever pub. I'm sure you both will enjoy a few jars of wherry in there. Just to let you know that the other pubs in Grantchester are now sadly more restaurant-like.
Exit the roundabout.
And simply aren't as good from a drinker's perspective. The Green
In 200 yards. At the roundabout, take the third exit.
Man was closed for a couple of years, which was a real shame, as it was fantastic. I believe it reopens today, day of writing email, but it has undergone a refurbishment and seems to focus more on food as well. I'm hoping those expectations are dashed when I inevitably go there for a post-dog walk pint along the meadows at some point soon. I really hope you enjoy your time in Grantchester and Cambridge for your upcoming trip. Only this morning I organised the itinerary for a pub crawl for a friend visiting next week. Here it is, should you want an idea of some of the better pubs in Cambridge in my opinion. So, Tom says start at lunch at the Blue Ball in Grantchester, walk to Cambridge over the Meadows, then go to the Mill, the Eagle. I'd imagine you may have been here before due to its proximity to the Corn Exchange venue and its history. No, I don't believe I have actually. The Champion of the Thames, the Elm Tree, the Free Press, definitely been there. He says it's sadly a Green King pub, but is a rare place that sells their mild on cask, which is arguably their only good beer. Interesting point. The Blue Moon, the Cambridge Blue. I think we've been to the Cambridge Blue as well with Chris, haven't we, John?
Yeah, we have. I've just realised a terrible error I've made.
Go on.
We're not going to Grantchester, we're going to Godmanchester.
Oh, right.
And they're only about 20 miles apart.
Exit the roundabout.
Surely we can fit both in somehow.
Yeah, I'm sure we could get in the back of the Sportage and head to Grantchester.
In a quarter of a mile. At the roundabout, take the 4th exit.
Tom says, I'm sure you'll be inundated with other pub crawls of Cambridge via email, but I felt like this was a way I could send back some value, as I get so much from the podcast. Thank you for all the content you create, Tom.
Oh, thanks, man. That's very kind.
Yeah, really nice. Thanks so much for writing. Really appreciate it.
We do get a chance to get the Sportage opening up its valves.
Are you talking about your car?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
We'll head down to Grantchester.
Yeah.
If you want to send your mist, you can send it to john@moonunderpod.com. And if you'd like access to our bonus episode, Behind the Cellar Door, as well as many other treats, head to moonunderpod.com to support us on Patreon. We've got to get this place tidied up, so we've got a guest coming in very soon. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Our previous episode, number 531, is called Should You Trust Private Equity to Take Care of Your Dog? Private equity firms have been buying up veterinary practices lately, so this seemed like a pretty straightforward question, but as it turned out, it's hard to answer. In some industries where private equity has been around for a while, like human healthcare, there is years worth of data that economists have analyzed, and they've found some good outcomes for patients and employees, and some not so good. With pet care, it's just too soon for that kind of analysis. So we are trying to figure out as much as we can in real time. Because, let's be clear, private equity is coming for your pet. Today on Freakonomics Radio, we will hear from one veterinarian who worked at a practice that was bought by a private equity firm.
We had a huge
Exit the roundabout.
staff turnover. So out of, say, 16 to 20 doctors, they maybe had 5 of the original bunch.
We'll ask the CEO of a big pet care company what's going on.
It's a very competitive labor environment for the best veterinarians, the best technicians.
Along the way, we'll get a quick economics lesson.
Monopsony is typically the labor market analog to monopoly.
And I'll tell you what happened at the vet where I took my dog and how that led to our making these episodes.
This is Freakonomics Radio, the podcast that explores the hidden side of everything, with your host, Stephen Dubner.